and that I look forward to some interesting discussions with you on the topic that I was asked to talk about, which is curriculum transformation. But before I do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Joseph Chisasa. I am in the Department of Finance, Risk Management, and Banking in the College of Economic and Management Sciences. Currently, I serve as the chairperson responsible for the college transformation activities. And these include curriculum transformation, language transformation, employment equity, and talent management. So on that note, I think I would like to welcome you all and hope that you will find this conversation interesting. But again, let me put up a disclaimer there and inform you upfront that I make no claims of being an expert in transformation, but that I have a lot of interest in matters to do with transformation, and also that I make no assumption that you don't know anything about transformation. And I look forward to your contributions also on how we can transform the academic landscape, especially given that whatever transformation we're talking about here is that which will directly affect you, whether now or in the future. So it will be quite an interesting thing for us to put our heads together as partners in this particular project. As you will see, that this is no a project that can be left to a singular party to deal with. It's a very complicated one. What we are doing here with this transformation agenda is actually redoing what was done for many years. Those of you who studied history will know that, in fact, even those that did not, I think by now you will know that Africa was colonized many, many years ago during the time they called the Scramble for Africa, which resulted in Africa being demarcated into small pieces of land, then named countries, and then ruled by the white settlers for centuries. And we know that when they arrived, they brought in all sorts of sets of knowledge from their different corners, bearing in mind that although they were all coming from Europe, Europe is not one country. It's a whole continent with different knowledge systems, with different cultures and all sorts. So all those were actually brought on us, including religion and all that. So we were like subordinated to everything that came from Europe. And to this day, we are still trying to reverse all those uh, systems that were imposed on us by the white settlers, so to speak. So let me then ask Dr. Stander to allow me to share the few slides that I prepared. Apparently I am also.
Sorry, I'm going to upgrade you, Prof.
No, it's fine. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I see that I've been given permission to share. I hope that I'll get it right. Technology is not one of my strongest areas. In my introduction, I mentioned that I'm a money man. So please do confirm if you can see my presentation. Can anyone see my screen, which says curriculum transformation and overview? Dr. Standa, can you hear me? Can anyone else hear me?
It's visible.
We can hear you, Prof.
Visible, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah,
Yes, we
I think
can hear you.
as we begin, I must emphasize that one area that we also need to transform is the speed of response. I asked a couple of times whether anyone can hear me, whether anyone can see my screen. It took a bit of some time before I could get those responses. But thanks anyway for that confirmation. Now, that said, yeah, what we're going to talk about here is the curriculum transformation. I think, first of all, when we talk curriculum, we're talking about the set of qualifications that we offer as a university to our students. I think curriculum transformation is not something that is unique to the University of South Africa. It is a global phenomenon, but I think it's loudest now in Africa and other former colonies of the West. And so we do this in realization of many things, that primarily that we want to teach our students, um, knowledge systems that pertain to Africa, because for many years, we were subjected to European knowledge systems, which do not necessarily speak to who we are. So our curriculum needs to change and reflect what Africa is. In this moment, there's very little of what can be aligned to African knowledge systems, so to speak. So the Department of Higher Education and Training has actually aside a large budget that goes towards the facilitation of the transformation of the curriculum. Not so long ago, in fact, up to just about last year or end of last year, um, the University of South Africa had um, what was then called the Curriculum Transformation Unit, which was a Department of Higher Education and Training funded project to facilitate the work of transforming the curriculum for the university. And because it was time bound, it expired in December 2023. However, the seed has been sown for us to continue with the work that was started by the unit, which is to make sure that we attend to the language matters, we attend to the qualifications matters in terms of improving the qualifications, changing the qualifications to reflect the realities of our African continent. And I think you will know that the Africa Union Commission, formerly the Organization of African Unions, has a blueprint, a document called the Africa Union Agenda 2063, which is like a plan for the African continent of changing all sorts of all facets of our lives, ranging from improving the education that is given to our African people to uh, having one passport for all Africans. In other words, probably pushing for a borderless Africa. Because if we're saying we're transforming, then it makes sense for us to take Africa back to where it was in the beginning, which is something that could be argued by others. That's probably not, but the Africa Union Agenda 2063 advocates for what they call the Africa we want. And this is a document that was put together by all heads of state from across Africa, which means all the member states of the Africa Union. Commission. So I think that project is a very big project, but that everyone has got a role to play. And if we do that, then that project will be successful. And so as a university, our role is to contribute towards transforming the education landscape. And now, if we talk about curriculum transformation, let me just give you just an overview of what it entails. I've put there this circular butterfly that shows at the center curriculum transformation and all the little things that need to be done in order to achieve that curriculum transformation. So you find that it speaks to issues around knowledge systems, changing knowledge systems. Because we're talking of transformation, we need to transform our knowledge systems to reflect that, the Africa that we are. We also need to talk about how we can change the language landscape. You know that we teach and learn largely in English. I would say largely because recently we've seen some variations in language deliveries. We for the larger part here in South Africa had English and Afrikaans, and recently we have seen the inclusion of this is Zulu, especially mainly talking at I'm saying this is Zulu because I think it's one of the few languages, to my knowledge, that being used or offered at tertiary level. Otherwise, most of the other languages are being offered at lower levels of education, that is basic education. But now what we want to see here is a transition where we see an escalation of the use of all the domestic languages or indigenous languages to all levels of education, so to speak. For those who may not know, this country has got 11 official languages, but a few more languages have been added. To my knowledge, Kiswahili is one of them, sign language is one of them, and increasingly there's a drive to include, I think they call it Mandarin or something like that. It's a Chinese language, and some of these, especially Kiswahili and the Chinese language, are actually being motivated on the basis of the business value that they bring along, because we do lots of trade with other African countries that of Swahili, that are Swahili speaking. And that Swahili is probably the most widely spoken language in Africa, arguably so. While the Chinese influence on the African continent cannot be debated, and therefore that particular factor has tended to influence the decision to include it as one of those languages that need to be taught in South Africa. Yeah, so we will particularly look at aspects such as decoloniality, because as I indicated earlier on, that this transformation follows colonization, because after we got political independence from our colonial masters, what remains has been for us to change our world into what we want through the Africa Union Agenda 2063, dubbed the Africa we want. So in this presentation, we'll talk about curriculum transformation, and then the imperatives of transformation, and finally, we'll talk about the transformation framework. I think it's we only have got 45 minutes maximum, and this conversation is a lifelong conversation, let me say. The transformation of the curriculum is not something that is time-bound. It's ongoing because life is dynamic. The world around us changes every now and then, And so as we develop our curriculum, we need to be taking into account also, that dynamism, all those changes that will be happening, so that we don't teach students materials that are irrelevant, materials that have been that are actually left behind time. And that's the reason why we need to make sure that we take stock of what we're teaching from time to time. Now, what is curriculum transformation? I think there's no singular definition in the literature of what curriculum transformation is, but I think simplistically speaking, any form of transformation entails change. So those of you who did mathematics, I think you must have bumped into a topic that dealt with transformation. It's this, way we're moving shapes from one position to another. In this case, though it's not directly mathematical, but the application of mathematics also is embraced. The bottom line is when we transform our curriculum, we're saying what is the status quo, and is it serving the purpose for which it is meant? And if so, then fine. If not, then we need to change it so that it serves the purpose for which it is meant. I'll give you an example of my department of finance, risk management, and banking. Back in the years when I was still a practicing banker myself, we used to have to issue what we called bankers' acceptances. These were paper-based instruments which were used for borrowing money. So if a corporate approached the bank to borrow money, would issue them with that document to fill in the amount of money that is required and accept their liability, and then we file it somewhere, we give them the money, they walk away. We used to have investment instruments such as the treasury bills that would also be in paper form. When somebody came to the bank to deposit money, would file it somewhere until about 90 days, 180 days. When the instrument matures, then they withdraw the money. That was then. This time around, all those paper-based instruments have now been what we call dematerialized. We no longer use the paper-based materials. It's all electronic. And if you go into the library now and look for books on investment instruments and look for books on short-term borrowing instruments, your bankers' acceptances, you will still find those books that are most books are still written as if these instruments are still paper-based. But because we interact with the industry, who happen to be one of our stakeholders, we have also what is called an advisory board as departments or as colleges to interact with the industry practitioners for whom we train our students. Is when we get to know new developments in the industries, which will then inform our curriculum. So in other words, curriculum transformation seeks to ensure that all of what we teach is current, is relevant, and is impactful. I hope that makes sense to you. Please feel free to stop me at any point in time to make an addition to what I'll be talking about, or a subtraction for that matter. Otherwise, a few questions at the end of the presentation. So how do we know that a curriculum is transformed? At some point, somebody needs to take stock of what has been done on the curriculum for them to say it has been transformed. Here is a list of what one would look for in a transformed curriculum. And if it's absent, then we need to ensure that whatever has not been done has been done. you'll find that as we do curriculum transformation, the whole process is also monitored and evaluated at some point, So for us as academics, we try and make sure that we tick all the boxes in terms of what is, the characteristics of a transformed curriculum. So first, the curriculum is you need to have a decolonized knowledge, or what we call epistemological decolonization. You'll pardon me for these big words; they are not financial terms. If they were financial, they've pronounced them better. So we have to make sure that I think that is the crux of it all. That our curriculum must have very little or no traces of colonization. In other words, we say let's domesticate the knowledge instead of keeping it with Eurocentric kind of flair that has been the case for centuries. And at some point, I think we need all to take it upon ourselves to interrogate all the materials that we read, to see the presence or absence of our African knowledge systems, and that's why we need you, our students, also to make sure that as you read, you're not just reading for the purposes of completing your assignment and then passing the examination at a later stage, but to see the value that it is the literature or the materials is giving you in terms of equipping you with the African knowledge systems, so to speak. So if that is missing, we call upon you to engage us and ask us or make recommendations, as it were. You will recall that I mentioned to you that we do not make assumptions that you do not know anything about the subject on the table, in as much as some of us are economists and we have been known to thrive on assumptions, this assumption we don't make. So we also want to see the curriculum teaching our students to have that freedom of expression, because then especially at the tertiary level, we expect more of that. We don't expect anybody to be scared of anyone or anything. We thrive on what we call academic freedom, and there's no civil suit that can be laid against you for expressing your academic freedom. So please feel free to engage us or anyone on matters to do with your curriculum and your learning processes and everything else to do with your academic business. So curriculum transformation is process driven. The process is that it obviously begins with the departments who are the custodians of the modules that we teach. More precisely, at the micro level, it may begin with the module head, module leader, the person that is teaching the subject. They are the one who are interacting with it every now and then. So they will be able to pick what areas need improvement, which areas need to be excluded from the present content so that it remains relevant. So when they do that, they make recommendations for the necessary improvements that need to be done through a process called module development, where we bring in new ideas, new methodologies, new assessment practices, and so forth and so on. So that's on the in the first leg. Then further on, it goes through the faculty the committees where approval is granted, or perhaps sometimes not granted, and recommendations made for further improvement, and so forth and so on. So curriculum transformation is not a one-man, one-woman task. It involves a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders that come in to put together a product that serves the purpose of giving relevant knowledge to our students. Again, I think I indicated that curriculum transformation is dynamic and evolutionary. It's not static. It speaks to the developments that are taking place in the world. Today, as we speak, we hear a lot about artificial intelligence, and it's a concept that has now found itself into the curriculum of many other qualifications. However, this is for me an interesting item because I've asked people why there's not been so much noise about natural intelligence. On the other hand, while I acknowledge the artificial intelligence, and I argue that artificial intelligence cannot be superior to natural intelligence because out of natural intelligence, artificial intelligence is born. So yeah, but the bottom line is we must be cognizant of the fact that curriculum transformation is evolutionary. It evolves, it changes from time to time. Curriculum transformation must be aligned with vision and mission of UNISA. Obviously, what we do, the business that we do, is driven or guided by the vision of the University of South Africa. As we transform the curriculum, we also need to take into account the fact that the economy that we serve, the public that we serve, have dynamic environments also. For instance, we in the College of Economic and Management Sciences align very strongly with the matters to do with the economy of the country. And therefore, when we see changes, significant changes that require attention, we respond to them by introducing new qualifications that address such changes. For instance, we are aware in the area of risk management that there's been so much that has been happening across the world in terms of financial disruptions. And recently and currently, we now have the introduction of the new financial assets, new financial technologies, your cryptocurrencies, your bitcoins, and so forth and so on. Those pose new dimensions of risk, pose new risks, and therefore we find ourselves challenged to provide new education that covers that kind of space. It may not necessarily be in the form of a complete qualification, but probably our intervention will be in the form of a module, a short course, or even a research paper for that matter. Our scholars are busy digging up new knowledge on how to deal with the new technologies that are coming on board. So we do revise our product quality mix. The product quality mix is the collectivity of all the qualifications that we offer. So from time to time, we make sure that we revise the qualifications. In some cases, we actually bring in, which is common practice anyway, bring in academics from other universities to come in to review our qualifications for relevance, for currency, and for impact also, because we don't operate in a vacuum, and we cannot make claims of super knowledge. So we need to get other people to give us their views on how our portfolio of qualifications is in terms of quality and performance. So that part is very, very important. So as a university, we also need to know the demographics of our students. From a business perspective, our student is our number one stakeholder, being the client of the institution. And therefore, we need to know who you are. We need to know what works for you, what doesn't work. We need to know the characteristics of all our students. And sometimes this information is information that you volunteer to us on applying for admission into the university. And it's very important for the new applicants to give accurate information about themselves in terms of their age, ethnicity, and so forth and so on. And so, for instance, if we looking at the distribution of our students, we want to know where they are mainly concentrated. That helps us do our planning also when we decide on what kind of interventions need to be put in place for the purposes of improving the quality of education that we give to our students. So curriculum transformation contributes to diversity initiatives aimed at institutional transformation. We cannot talk of transformation without ourselves being transformed. So, most importantly, charity begins at home, and that enables us to serve or to carry out our transformation activities in a more appropriate way. Curriculum transformation must be inclusive. In other words, we don't want situations where some students are forgotten while others are more privileged than the others. And I think the University of South Africa has done very well insofar as paying attention to the differently able students to the point of establishing an office that is responsible for that constituency of students. And I think for me, it's very, very important for us to make sure that this item is not just one of those that are on the list for the sake of it, or one of those that we tick a box to say we have it, we are addressing it. The reality is that our students out there, some of them really need our presence at all times because of their special conditions, and that is a fact of life. Recently, I don't know whether it's still recent, but late in the year 2023, I had the privilege of traveling to our Durban regional office, where I met one of our differently abled female student. And when I engaged with her, in fact, at that point, we were talking to our students about the student MOOC on curriculum transformation, which was rolled out last year through the curriculum transformation unit, which is now defunct. I learned a lot about why it's so important for us to be very close to our students so that we know them better. Quite a number of challenges were shared by the student that even the regional office were not quite aware of. And I think our curriculum must be mindful of such special cases and ensure that as we deliver this curriculum, everybody else has got equal access to it. Just sharing some of the key concepts on curriculum transformation. Of course, it will not be complete without coloniality and decoloniality, which are just the two sides of the same coin. And then epistemology speaks to the knowledge systems. And then more precisely, you've got African epistemology. And I think this is what is, for me, this is what is central to curriculum transformation, that we say we want to teach our own African knowledge. We want to say when we read an economics textbook, we talk about the production of tomatoes in ZZ2 there. It is by ZZ2 in Limpopo. Give such examples and how things are done there. We want to learn more about about labor economics in South Africa, and how we can then formulate our own our theories that are customized to the African context. Then you've got your curriculum, which is a collection of your qualifications, or a listing of the content of a qualification, if you like. Then the pedagogy, just the the methods through by which we teach or deliver our PQM. So I think that is very important also because as a university, we need to try and identify, the teaching methodologies that are, understood by the student easily. How that will happen will also be informed by the research that we do from time to time. For instance, the Department of Finance, Risk Management and Banking has what they call the Certified Financial Analysts Championship in competition that they attend every year in South Africa. Yesterday, we listened to Dr. Mabaso giving us a chat on the work they do with small and medium enterprises, either new or already in existence. All those interventions serve to help our students understand what's sitting in the literature. It's one thing reading about a concept. You can read it 10 times and walk away without having understood it. But if you practice it, you will probably need 1 day and then you grasp the concept. I had the privilege of going to a university that had 1 year work integrated learning program. In that particular year, the focus was on comparing theory and practice. And so at the end of the year, you would have to compile a report giving your views on how you experience the work environment and how what you were practicing relates to the theory that you learned in year 1 and year 2. And I think this is some of the things that the methodological variations that are required for us to ensure that our students gain that broader and finer understanding of the subject matter. So I think that's pretty much those, the key terms that one want to look out for in a transformed curriculum. So what are the imperatives for transformation? The first one is that curriculum transformation must provide wider access to higher education. We know that, during the colonial era, accessing higher education was, for many, a dream, and which remained a dream. For the few that were favored, they had access to higher education. And this is a landscape that we need to change so that all our people who are capable and interested have access to higher education. There are so many impediments to access, including financial, lack of infrastructure, and barring health-related impediments. Otherwise, anything to do with the resources should be addressed. And I think the government of South Africa is doing this far, in my view, and arguably so, a fantastic job in trying to make sure that all those who deserve access to higher education and are ready to do so, who have access to it. And transformation also should translate into equal job opportunities. Again, this one's an area that posed challenges for many years to government, to the general populace at large. But again, as we transform our curriculum, we seek to enhance the chances of accessing their interesting job opportunities, give them an equal chance when pitted with other peers, whether it be from UNISA or other universities or elsewhere in the world. I think for me, this is critical because when you look at the global landscape, you find that overseas, the people out there know that we are from Africa and we are African. They don't know much about the different names of universities that are in Africa, not just in South Africa. So when you meet people from elsewhere, it shouldn't matter really which university you went to, but the knowledge that you acquired uh, going through that university must define who you are. In other words, if you're competing for a job opportunity, it should be you should be able to go toe to toe with anybody from any other universities across the world. So we aspire to do that by constantly reviewing our curriculum from time to time. Job satisfaction also is one of the areas that we seek to achieve through the broad transformation agenda. Increased funding for continuous professional learning. I think this speaks to the fact that learning is a journey. We never stop learning. In fact, learning or education would be like a marital relationship where death should do you part. Now, the UNISA 2030 strategic plan has embraced the call to transform its curriculum. And this is the reason why we were home to the Curriculum Transformation Unit, a Department of Higher Education and Training project, which was funded to the tune of a couple of millions of rand. And you can see that UNISA is really, really serious about getting the curriculum transformed. And that's why it has in its annual performance plan, strategic focus area 4, which seeks to expedite curriculum transformation through the transformation of, among other things, governance, student and workforce composition, the research agenda, and the curriculum itself. So I think that in this moment, I must emphasize the fact that a change is a function of time. In other words, it depends on time. It's a variable, it's a moving target. So the University of South Africa has begun on the curriculum transformation project. I would say it's at its infancy, but a lot of momentum has been gained this far. 2024 is going to be a defining moment for us as a college, also in particular, because we are looking to, you know, more enhancing more awareness across students, across staff, both academic and administrative staff. We will be in contact with most of our students to share knowledge about what we are doing, also to ask questions, to invite contributions or perspectives on how we can do it better or best for that matter. So I think that this is a project for all of us. Let's brace up, fasten our seatbelts, because it's going to be a massive, massive project. The framework for curriculum transformation is as follows. At the center there, you've got curriculum transformation, and around it are the feeders, or what the enablers. In other words, you've got your pedagogical renewal of teaching and assessment practices. I already made reference to that we need to change the way we assess, that we need to change the way we teach. And the scholarship of teaching and learning, we see lots of work in the area of research by all academics and students alike. I think especially for the postgraduate students, we want to see more involvement in research, either amongst yourselves or with your fellow lecturers. I think it would work best if you do it with your lecturers so that you get that mentorship, that guidance. And we also see that the infusion of African knowledge systems and philosophies within the PQM is central, also central to the attainment of a transformed curriculum. Most importantly for me is student-centered scholarship, where we do not forget who our number one stakeholder is as a university. And I can assure you that even though there are pockets of staff in the university that sometimes drop the ball, as a university, we value the student and the role the student plays in our existence as an institution. Above all, we want to emphasize on the monitoring and evaluation of curriculum renewal, both by staff in the university and by our students. I think if we acknowledge the fact that our students are our clients, then it makes sense for us to call for or to request for the client feedback on the services that we deliver from time to time. And it is my hope that as you get approached for that kind of feedback, you give your honest feedback without fear or without any favor for that matter. The following are what we call the curriculum transformation dimensions. In other words, what do we look for at the end of the day, even when our departments or faculties do report on their the transformation activities. We look at infusion of African epistemologies and philosophies within the PKM, how much of the African knowledge systems has been included or embedded in the PKM. And then we look at the methodological changes in the teaching and assessment practices. You probably know by now that some modules are being assessed on a continuous basis, as opposed to the traditional once-off assignment, where you probably have one or two assignments for your formative assessment, and then at the end of the semester or the year, you get examined by way of a formal examination. Then we're also looking at scholarship of teaching and learning. We encourage our academics and students alike to engage a great deal in looking for new knowledge through research. We're also looking at technology infusion, that's multimedia integration. Obviously, with the fact that specifically with UNISA as an OTEL institution, we cannot wish away the use of technology and at a very large scale, so to speak. Then transformative assessment, that's I think I made reference to the continuous assessment and other forms of assessment, by the way. We'll continue to look for the best ways of assessing our students, which will not lead to anybody being prejudiced. Then student-centered scholarship, diversity and inclusion, where we say there mustn't be any discrimination of any sort, or no student should be prejudiced or disadvantaged because of their unique characteristics. Case in point here would be our differently abled students. And then finally, monitoring and evaluation of curriculum renewal. That again needs no overemphasis. On that note, I want to thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope that I was useful to you. I know that this time that you spend with me is time that you could have spent doing other more important things. But for the fact that you could take risk on us and spend time with us, we are very, very appreciative and hope that we can get this curriculum transformed for the better of you as our students and for the better of South Africa and the entire world. Thank you, Dr. Stander.
Thank you so much, Prof. Indeed, we are at the Department of Business Management. We are also trying to transform our curriculums in such a way that nobody gets left behind. I'm always reminded of a story about assessment, or actually a cartoon where perhaps I can pull it up. Give me a moment, maybe I can Google it. But in the meantime, Prof, I see there's a question in the chat for you about African perspectives.
Thank you, Dr. Stan. I see the question says, how could we control African perspectives of war, poverty, food security, governance, right of human being, access, quality, and so on through curriculum transformation? My goodness me, that's a very pregnant question. Um, I'm trying to pronounce the name here. Kefile brought Haju. This one is a very I don't have a singular answer to this question. As you can see, we are talking about war and poverty, then food security. I would say that the reason why we say we want to transform our curriculum is that we need to bring in examples of what is happening in different countries, across Africa. We say that we want to Africanize. So let's talk about poverty in Africa. Let's talk about food security in Africa. How is it fitting into the how does it fit into our curriculum? For instance, we just seen in the Department of Business Management. I'm not so sure if I'm jumping the gun here, Dr. Stander, but I know that there's interest in offering a qualification which speaks to sustainability. And I think sustainability would include things like your food security, that for me is an example of how we can incorporate our own realities in the curriculum. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
And then, Prof, do you have any benchmarks against which you would judge this?
I would say that currently in South Africa, we are in conversations with the University of KwaZulu-Natal. They've done a fantastic job in transforming their curriculum to mainly isiZulu, because I think it happens to the local language there. So yes, we benchmark ourselves against the local universities. We haven't had a chance to engage with universities outside South Africa. But as I said, curriculum transformation at UNISA and also in South Africa is quite still at its infancy. Those are some of the tasks that we'll be putting on the table to see who else we can talk to in order to make sure that what we are doing is not just our own and singular way of doing things that is divorced from the rest of the industry. Thank you.
And also, Prof, more a bit of a quantitative research question. How do you evaluate the impact of curriculum transformation?
Wow, that's an interesting one. I think that will actually be, we can only do it through a survey, if you ask me. And then you're looking at perhaps using a dichotomous model, which will show you whether there's impact or no impact. So you have to interview. For me, I think various constituencies, including first the students, to say how impactful or how useful has it been to go through a transformed curriculum. But then you may need two data sets there, one that has got that is not yet transformed, and the data on the second second set of data of a transformed, that is in respect of a transformed curriculum, then you do your analysis, comparative analysis in that way. Alternatively, yeah, sorry.
No, there's a question for you from Nirmala. You can go
This
ahead.
one that says, how do you evaluate the impact of
She raised
curriculum
her
change?
hand again. I thought she wanted to speak to you, Prof.
Yeah, well, I saw the
No,
question
no.
from Nirmala. And then that says, do you currently have anything in place?
To measure the impact, I think. But the hands up.
Let me say that research in this space is still very thin. And these kind of questions are good questions for research that we actually should be doing, or we will be doing, because there's currently no secondary data of some sort that one can use, or any attempt at testing the impact of curriculum transformation would have to be done through primary service, primary data collection. And I think that we would be happy to have volunteers to participate in studies that have to do with the curriculum transformation, including impact studies. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Nirmala, is there something you want to ask?
Yes, thanks, Karen. And I just want to know, not from a research perspective, but the fact that we have all this in place, or we are, incorporating all this within our curriculum, is it making an impact on students or on the education system? And not only that, I think the idea of higher education is to make a difference to students' lives in terms of their careers, their development, etc. What impact is this making, if any? Has there been any evaluation to, identify what impact this is making, or will there be anything put in place at some stage to identify the impact of this?
Let me begin by saying, yes, there's going to be something that will be done in terms of determining the impact that curriculum transformation has had on students, or communities, and so forth and so on. But in this moment, the only feedback that I can make reference to is the what do you call the feedback? What do you call those papers that you give to students or to
surveys?
Sorry?
The surveys.
Yes. Whenever we have visited students to talk to them about curriculum transformation, we have had to ask them for their views on what they think of curriculum transformation this far. And it's a mixed bag of feedback. Some feel that it's very good, for the fact that they're going to be learning in different languages, especially that, and the fact that in some cases there are modules that are already examining more than one language, which has been well received. And I think that we should be able to get more and more feedback on that, apart from the scientific evidence that we're going to provide.
Okay, all right. Now, I think, higher education are trying to incorporate a lot of things within the curriculum, and this is obviously for our benefit, but is it benefiting us? Is it making an impact in terms of, people's employability, or getting jobs, or changing careers, promotions, etc.? It is a difficult one. I know it is a difficult one to evaluate, but I think, it'll be nice to start looking at ways whatever we incorporate into curriculum impacts on student and alumni.
Thank you very much, Namla. I think you're right. I think it is too soon for us to talk about uh, the real impact of curriculum transformation, because again, it's something that has just begun, and I think we would need a bit of some time to see how it translates into real results, especially when you're looking at employability, and because curriculum transformation will be one facet, one factor that feeds into employability, but of course, we would need to test its contribution to employability. I think over time, we should be able to pick whether or not it has been of any significant impact to
Yeah.
employability and other benefits, so to speak.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that's true as well, because lots of higher education institutions are rushing into what can we do, how can we do it, but I think the impact part of it is going to take a little longer than expected.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I hear you. Let's see.
Prof,
The
then Bongani also has a question, but there's actually two more questions today. So Bongani asks, how do you relate curriculum transformation, which lean towards decolonization, so basically, how do you marry decolonization and globalization with as well as SDG 4?
so for curriculum transformation does not seek to exclude other epistemologies and knowledge systems, but that curriculum transformation seeks to put at the forefront African knowledge systems. So globalization still remains, included in a curriculum, in a transformed curriculum. I'm not familiar with SDG 4, Ongani. Maybe you could give
Quality
more
education, Prof.
quality education. Oh, of course, as we emphasize on transforming our curriculum, we are actually pushing for improved education, which speaks to the quality of education. So yeah, I think we are taking care of that. I hope that answers Mongani sufficiently.
And then there's another question, Prof. I'll give the hand now. Are you planning to collaborate with big institutions in the finance space to further investigate the impact of curriculum transformation on employability?
Yes, I'm not so sure which what big institutions means, but we as a as a College of Economic and Management Sciences, we are making inroads into the corporate sector through our respective departmental advisory board meetings, and so through that, we are able to interact with the representatives of those big institutions to find out what else needs to be done in order for our students to be employable. And I think, as you say, the finance space, and for me, coming from the Department of Finance, Risk Management, and Banking, I can almost tell you with confidence that we do interact with the Institute of Risk Management. We do interact with the South African Institute of Financial Markets, the Institute of Bankers of South Africa, all those professional bodies, and of course, industry practitioners. Recently, we hosted the 8th International Conference on Financial Services, where the CEO of Nedbank was a keynote speaker and other speakers from the financial services sector. So those are the kind of conversations that we have that inform our curriculum. And when we ask for their contributions, we ask for contributions that lead to the development of a graduate that can be easily absorbed in the industry. Thank you.
And there's one hand, Mrs. Dlamini.
Much, Dr. Stanner, and thank you, Prof, for your Insightful presentation. I can see that it's provoking a lot of people. However, it is an important thing that should be incorporated in our learning. And I wanted to come in to answer that one of SDG 4, pertaining to curriculum transformation and decolonization, as well as globalization. Those are the three aspects that are in that question. However, with the implementation of curriculum transformation, it will seem to cut what Prof. Karen Stander had indicated in that diagram, that we seem to put everybody in the same basket and teach across the same concept as if our environment doesn't count. And our environment counts a very big chunk of what shapes us as individuals and people and our children as well. For instance, my sister is teaching in a rural area, deep KwaZulu-Natal. She says she was teaching about eating healthy. And then she says, the book says, you must eat healthy things like yogurt. And one child raised the hand and said, but ma'am, what is yogurt? Then that says a lot about what Dr. Stanner was saying, that we tend to think that everybody should know what a yogurt is. And that's not the case. So that is the reason why it is going to, why we need this curriculum transformation, so that everybody can be assessed according to the things that are affecting us all, cutting across, be it black, white, village, or in the urban areas. However, we do have to take into consideration that the environment differs. Others will have resources. When they do experiments, they will go to the lab. And whenever you go to the village, you'll find that they don't have all the necessities. So there is a discrepancy there. And also what we teach, we're teaching about yogurt. What about the food that we eat as Africans? We eat mushu, fino, all those things are healthy and they are needed by our bodies. So it's not only important that we teach that a yogurt is important and it's going to feed your body and make you healthy. We do have African things that we have to teach the children, that we eat these things and they are good for our bodies. And these are the reason why they are good for our bodies. So if we try to cut the divide line, that there are some things that are known to the others as good and other things that are known to the others as not so good, we will cut the divide and make it the level the playing field, and also try to push across diversity to all the learners, and thereby we will limit this thing that the matric results make others look like they're not as smart as the others as well. So I think that's the reason why we need this curriculum transformation. I don't know if
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Ms. Lamine. I think you put it well. Yes, diversity is one of the biggest aspects that curriculum transformation seeks to address.
Yeah, I agree. It's really important. We often shy away from these things because uh, we are afraid of change, Proof. So I do think if you look, I want to share this picture with you, and we all know, or I'm not, I don't want to assume, but most of us would know the name Albert Einstein. And he, a long time ago, and every time I think of curriculum transformation, I think of this, right? For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. How fair is that assessment that is going to happen there? there's only one person that climbs the tree. And then he goes to say, everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And this is why we need to transform the curriculum in such a way that nobody believes that they are stupid. And this is why, and this is how we create quality education that links back to the SDG, right? Because that way, even the elephant and the fish and the dog will learn what the professor there is trying to teach them in a way that they are able to learn. Right? We use this a lot. If we look at the different types of learners, some people have to move. I think about when you study. I remember when I had to still remember things, Prof. Right? I had to write things on a wall and say them out loud to learn. I will give you a chance now to Melo. I know some of my colleagues can sit still and make summaries and just write and learn in that way. So let us all think about curriculum transformation as a way of allowing all the animals in the picture the ability in the space to learn. Okay. To Melo, your hand.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity just to now throw a spanner in the wheel. I'm thinking most probably the ideal place where educational transformation should actually happen is probably with our basic education. Because like what Professor has just shared, that picture from Albert Einstein, I think our system tends to assume that all children are academically inclined. So that is why by the time the children reach matric, you'll find that probably half of the students or the learners who enrolled in grade 1 have fallen off the system, because maybe the system, boxes children into thinking that all of them are academic. Whereas if we had a system in place that could identify where a child, their strengths lie, it could perhaps identify that maybe this child by the time they are maybe 10 or 11, they're not really strong academically. Then they are taught to go into the artisan field. Or whenever we can identify that such and such a child has maybe a sporting skill, they are then sent to schools that are quite strong in whatever sport the child chooses, so that children are actually taught things that are to their benefit and that also recognizes their talent, where instead of just saying that children must learn mathematics, must learn natural sciences, whereas that's not really their area of strength. So most probably I'm thinking transformation will actually be ideal if it could be started from a very young age. Thank you.
Prof. Joseph, we've got a minute left.
Yeah, I do agree that transformation should start at the basic education. Yet at the same time, change always has to take place when circumstances do shift. So it's, from a strategic point of view, from a planning point of view, both the departments of basic education and higher education should be collaborating on what needs to change, because more importantly, the basic education fits into the higher education system, and therefore to change the higher education system without attending to the basic education system and kind of working in isolation creates more problems. So I do agree with you that whatever changes should take place at the higher education sector should necessarily be aligned to the changes that take place at the basic education. I think there is work that is being done, but that I think that collaboration is not loud if it is taking place. We are not aware of it, but I think that we need to do more to ensure that basic education and higher education sing the same hymn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Yes, thank you for the time today, Prof. Joseph. I know you're really busy, and we do appreciate that you reach out across departments to help us at KEMS to bring over this important thing of curriculum transformation. And that it doesn't always stand there as this big mountain to climb, but that everybody looks at it and see it as a positive thing for the betterment and the reaching of SDG 4 and not a hindrance for it, for our achievement to SDG 4. So thank you again very much, Prof. Joseph. I'm just going to quickly stop the recording so that I can get the videos a little bit shorter. Otherwise, it's a bit difficult for me to